Hi everybody, this is TechNolli, and today we're going to learn how to Hackintosh a Ryzen motherboard system. Okay, we're going to use Opencore's install guide. That's 0.6.0. Okay, so you just want to go ahead and go to the internet and type Opencore, and this is the one right here, the Dorian. So click on that one and click on Get Started. And this is where we're going to follow this guide. You're going to follow me along, and we're going to teach you how to do Mac OS on a Ryzen system. Okay? Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to have a USB stick that is empty, because we're going to erase it, and that is what we're going to use to boot up the Mac OS on our Ryzen Hackintosh. So go ahead and put that in your computer, and I'm going to minimize this for a second. So here's my new USB stick, or my used one, whatever, but we're going to erase it, and just go over here to Utilities, and go to Disk Utility, double click. And then we want to click on View right here, this down arrow, and Show All Devices. That way you'll see your USB stick. So I've got this USB 3.0, and I'm going to click Erase. And I want you to name it USB. And then leave the format to macOS Extended, and change the scheme to GUID partition map. And go ahead and click Erase. Okay, once we're done with that, we're done with Disk Utility, and as you can see, we've got this stick right here, and it's named USB. Now, in order for us to put Catalina or Mojave, whichever operating system you want to use, you need to have it in your Applications folder. So, you say, well, how do I do that? Well, I do have a video that shows you how to download it using Get Mac OS, or if you have somebody that has a Mac, you can download it from the App Store, and you can get the latest version of Catalina. When you download it, it will download the Catalina file into here, and it will show up right here under Install macOS Catalina under Applications, okay? So that is the actual disk, let's say, or the 8 gigabyte install media that we need to make this USB stick bootable. Okay, so once we have it in here, then we can just jump over to the web and just type in make a USB bootable right there, Mac, okay? And then right here you'll see the Apple website. Click on that, and we're going to go down here till we see Catalina, and we're going to grab this text all the way up to the / right before my volume, and then just copy it. Okay? All right. So we'll go ahead and close this out. Now go over here to Spotlight and type in Terminal. Okay, then right-click what we just copied into here, and then we're going to add the letters USB, which is what we named our stick. So this is the path to our stick. We hit Enter, put in our password, then select Y for yes, and hit Enter. Okay, this is going to take about 20 minutes, and it will make our Mac bootable USB drive, our vanilla Mac bootable drive. Okay, as soon as this is done, we'll come back and get going. Okay, guys, so we're all done. This is what it looks like. And now you'll have up here your install macOS Catalina. Okay, let's close this out. Let's go back over to the internet, and let's jump over to, let's see, the TechNolli website. So TechNolli.com, and go to the EFI downloads page. And we're going to need Opencore, we're going to need Proper Tree, and Mount EFI. So I've already got Mount EFI downloaded and proper tree. Let's go over to Opencore, and let's go, we're on 0.6.0. Let's go down here to release versions. Click on that, download that. All right, and let's go over here to our downloads, and let's grab this Opencore and put it right on the desktop. Okay, perfect. Now, what we want to do is we want to use the Mount EFI to mount the hidden partition on the USB stick. So let's double click on it, double click on Mount EFI.command, say OK, and then we're going to select number 2, which is our install macOS Catalina. Number 2, put in your password. Okay, and right here is the hidden EFI partition. So we can close this out. Double click on this and there's nothing in here. So what I want you to do now is go to the Opencore folder and drag this EFI folder into here. Okay, and then double click on it, double click on OC, and we need one other file right here under docs. So back to the Opencore folder, and we need the sample plist and bring it into here. Okay, we can close that out. Now let's rename sample to config.plist. Okay, then we'll go under tools and we'll just delete all of these files. Okay, and then right here we have our quirks. There's nothing in there, so we have to get those. Our drivers, we only need one file in here, and that's open runtime. So I'm going to get rid of all of these other ones. Okay, and this one. All right, and then under ACPI there is nothing. Okay, now let's go back over to the Opencore guide and we'll get started. And first thing we want to do is we want to see what kind of files we're going to need. So we'll go over here to our AMD desktop config plist and click on Ryzen. Okay, we'll scroll down here, and ACPI, that's that folder in our EFI partition, EFI folder, OC, and ACPI. There's nothing in here, so let's see what we need to put in there. So let's scroll down here, and it says we need this right here, this SSDT, to go into here. Now, if you have a B550 or an A520 motherboard, then you would also want to grab this one. So let's click on this. All right, it takes you to this page, which you say to yourself, well, where is that file? So go right over here to pre-built SSDTs and go down here to SSDT EC USBX desktop. Click on that and then just click download, and you will get this SSDT and just put it right into our ACPI folder. Okay, so we're done with ACPI. Now let's close out of here and let's go back to the Opencore guide, and let's go up here to gathering files. All right, so it's going to bring us to a page right here because we need to make sure that we have the drivers and the quirks for the files that we need to hack this motherboard. So under drivers, we'll double click and notice we have openruntime.efi, and right here is firmware drivers, and it says we need two of them. We need Open Runtime, and we also need this HFS Plus. I have already downloaded it. It's right here. I'm going to put it into here. That's all we need for drivers. Okay, now let's move on to quirks. And quirks are kind of like Windows drivers. It's what makes the hardware communicate with the software. So let's go down here. We can go past this legacy users. We don't need this. We want to go to quirks. All Hackintosh that I've ever done need VirtualSMC, Lilu. Scroll down. We need whatever green for our graphics. We need Apple ALC for our audio. And we're going to need one of these quirks for our Ethernet controller on our motherboard. This particular ASRock motherboard has an Intel i211 chipset. And right here it says the small tree Intel 82576 quirks is required for i211s. So I have downloaded it here. I downloaded all the other quirks that I need right here. And all I have to do now is grab them and put them in to this folder. Okay? So simply what you would do is, let's say you're grabbing this one. You would click on Apple ALC. You would go down here to the release version and click on that. You'll download it. Each one of these files, it's the same process. You'll look right here, Apple ALC, and there is the quirks. Okay? We don't need this other one. We just need the simple quirks. All right? Okay, we are done with that. So we have all of our, let's look at it again. We'll go to the EFI partition, the EFI folder. We'll go to OC and we'll go to ACPI. We have our SSDT that we need for here. Drivers, we have our 2 drivers. And we have our quirks that we're going to need for this, okay? Now, each motherboard is different, so except for these quirks, all of these quirks will be the same for all motherboards except for your Ethernet controller, depending on your motherboard, okay? All drivers will be the same, okay? But you may have to have additional SSDTs depending on if you're using an Intel board, whether you're using a Coffee Lake or a Comet Lake. You know, there's different ACPIs, and you follow the guide to do that. All right. Let's get into editing our config.plist. Now to do that, we're going to go over here to Proper Tree. That's a download we did. And right-click and open. And it brings up this pretty little box. I'm going to go ahead and minimize all of these. Scoot this over. And we will go ahead and go File, Open. And we want to go to our EFI partition, our EFI folder, OC, config.plist. Okay? And click Open. Now, let's go ahead and get rid of these. Okay, get rid of these. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to do what's called an OC snapshot. And it's over here under File. Right there, OC snapshot. Now, when we click on this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be telling the config.plist where our SSDTs, our drivers, and our quirks are. So right now it has no idea. So we're going to go over here to File, OC Snapshot, and make sure that it goes to your EFI partition, your folder, and then OC, and click Choose. And if you'll see, all of our SSDTs are plugged now into our config.plist, along with our quirks that we did, virtual SMC, whatever green, everything is in its place. And while you're at it, just go ahead and do OC clean snapshot, and that makes sure everything is in its proper order. Okay, now if you remember, we were starting on the guide and we got to ACPI, and that's where I said we needed to add in these quirks. So we're done with all of that. So we can go ahead and move on. And we come to Booter, okay? And Booter is down here a little bit. Right here is Booter. And what we want to do is just make sure that the guide looks like our config.plist, or make our config.plist look like our guide. Now, right here, guys, they have this new patch or changes right here, but it's only for the TRX40 motherboards, okay? It's not for standard Ryzen motherboards. So we can skip this MIMO whitelist and go down here to quirks, which is right here. Now, leave everything by default except for these changes. So, devirtualize MIMO right here, this is required for the TRX40. So we don't need to worry about it, and ours is already set to no, so we're okay. If we had the TRX40, we would have to change this to true. True equals yes, false equals no, okay? Enable write unprotector, okay, right there. It should be no, so we're going to change it to false. And then rebuild Apple memory map, which is down here. We want to make sure it's turned on or set to true. And then the last one, sync runtime permissions, needs to be true, along with setup virtual map is also set to true. Now, if you have the new B540, A540, or a TRX40 board, you should set that to false, okay? So we're done with this section. Now, if you want to complete, you want to see everything, then click on this more in-depth info, and it's going to give you a lot more information about those changes. Okay, device properties, we can just skip right on past it and go to kernel. All right, now here we have a little bit of work to do. We need to do a patch, all right? So let's scroll down here until we see the word patch. There it is. All right. So on the Ryzens, we have to make a patch. We have to patch our kernel right here. So go ahead and click on this Ryzen Threadripper. It's going to take you to this page, Patches plist. Click on that. And then I want you to go ahead and go up here to Spotlight and type in text edit and open up a little text file. Make sure that you change the format to plain text, okay? We just want plain text, all right? Then I want you to click on raw, and then I just want you to select all and copy and paste it right into our little text document right here. And then go to File, Save. We're going to save it to the desktop, and we're going to call it patches.plist. Okay, and click Save. All right, now we can close that out. We can go back to our guide. And what we need to do, if you watch this little animation, what we need to do is go down to where we see patch under kernel. So we're going to go down here till we see patch. There it is. We're going to just highlight that line, right click, remove patch and any children. Okay? All right, we're done. So now go back up here to File under Property, and we're going to open up our patches plist. So I go over here. Here's my, now it named it, it put patches.plist.text. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and get rid of that .text. Okay, and then it says use plist or keep the text. No, I want to use plist. All right? So if that happens to you, you'll know what to do. Okay, so we'll go back up here to File, Open, and we're going to go to the patches plist. Right there it is. Now right here where it says patch, I want you to highlight, right click, and copy. Then we can close this out. We'll go back over here, go up to kernel, right there, highlight, right click, and paste. All right, we just did all of those patches. So we are done with this section and we can keep moving on. Now we're going to go back right here where it says quirks because we want to check these quirks. And this is under kernel. So dummy power management. Let's look for dummy power management right there. It needs to be set to true. Panic no kex dump needs to be true. Power timeout needs to be true. And our XHCI port limit also needs to be true to turn on all of our USB ports. Okay, let's move on. Go to way down here until we see miscellaneous. A lot of patches. Okay, there's miscellaneous. So we'll go down here. There's miscellaneous right there. And we want to check these items out. Now, I know this works perfectly fine, so I'm not going to turn on debugging. If you want to turn on debugging, then you want to do exactly what they say here. The only thing I'm going to turn on is disable watchdog, okay? That way, and I'm going to leave this set to 3 instead of 67, and I'm not going to turn on the Apple Debug or Apple Panic because I know it's going to work fine on here. But if you're having problems, you may want to come back and turn these on and set this to 67 so it produces log text files so you can see what's going on. All right, let's move on to security, which is right here. And we want to go ahead and turn on allow NVRAM, turn on allow set default. Go down here to Vault and make sure that says optional. Okay, hit enter, and scan policy needs to be 0 and hit enter. Okay, so we're done with this section. Now we come down to NVRAM. Here is NVRAM. We have to do a few changes right here. So let's scroll down here a little bit and we get to these boot arguments. All right, here are boot args right here. It already has 2 of them already in by default for us, but we need to add a couple more. All right, so let's grab this debug argument, copy it, double click over here, put a space between each boot argument, and then copy it in, put another space. I don't need NPCI equals 0x2000 because my motherboard allows me in the BIOS to turn on above 4G decoding. If your motherboard does not have above 4G decoding, if there's no place in the BIOS where you can set that to enable, then you will need to put this boot argument here. But my motherboard, I was able to enable it, so I don't need to have in this boot argument. But I do need this one right down here for my audio. So I'm going to copy that and paste it in here. All right, now let's scroll down here a little bit. I want to show you another item. If you're using a Radeon RX 5000 series graphics card, which includes 5500s, 5600s, 5700s, then you will need this boot argument at the end of here with a space for them to work, or you will get a black screen on the second boot. So if you're using those higher end cards, make sure that you put in this boot argument. I'm not, so I'm going to leave it blank. Okay, so let's go down here. Now we need to go to our preferred language. Right now it's set to Russian. So let's change this type to string, okay? And then we're going to type in EN-US:0 and hit enter. Now, when we boot up our computer, it'll be in English. If you have another language, you just click on this link right here, and it'll take you to a page where you can put in different languages. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so it comes down here and it talks about this quirk right here, write flash, and that needs to be set to true. Now, platform info. Let's go down here and we see our system product name. This is really important. On Ryzen systems and Threadrippers, we want to use iMac Pro. I'm going to change it here. Pro 1,1. Okay? That's the best one to use for Ryzen. It just always seems to work. Sometimes people use iMac Pro 7,1. I think we did that once on a Threadripper, but for our Ryzens, this is what we want to use. Okay, so let's go on down here to UEFI, and it talks about these drivers needing to be in our config.plist, which there they are right there because of the OC snapshot command. So they are injected. So we'll go down here, and the last thing we need to check is this quirk, which is toward the bottom right here, unlock block, and it is set to false, and that's what it needs to be. So that's it, guys. We are done with this. Now what we want to do is go File and Save. All right, now everything is saved. We're ready to go into the BIOS, and I'm going to show you what we need to change, and we'll get started with installing the OS. Okay? All right, let's get going. Okay, guys, I'm going to start tapping that delete key on the keyboard to get into my BIOS. And that's pretty common on almost all motherboards. Okay. Okay, here we are. So what we want to do is go over to OC Tweaker. Now this is on the ASRock Phantom Gaming, and it's pretty much the same whether you're using Gigabyte or MSI or some other brand motherboard. You're going to look for these same kind of settings. And right down here, I wanted to load my XMP, which is our memory profile, and I used profile 1, and it then detected my DDR4 3200 RAM. Okay, now let's go over to Advanced, and under CPU configuration, there's nothing that we have to change. On board configuration, there's really nothing in here that we need to change or mess with. We want to make sure our audio is turned on. Storage configuration, nothing. ACPI, nothing. This one has a Super I/O configuration, and I needed to make sure that the serial port is disabled. A lot of newer boards don't even have serial ports, but this one does, so I made sure it was disabled. Don't need to worry about graphic output, trusted computing, AMD CBS, there's nothing in here I need to mess with. AMD PBS, this motherboard does down here at the bottom have Thunderbolt support, and if I'm going to use Thunderbolt, then I would turn this to enable, and I would turn security level to no security. Okay? All right, we can go out of here. I'm not going to do any overclocking. Let's go over to boot, and there's only two things we need to worry about, really. Three things. Fast boot is disabled, and CSM compatibility support module, we want to make sure it's disabled, but here is that above 4G decoding that I said on this motherboard it has it, so I enabled it, so I didn't need that extra boot argument. If you can't find this above 4G decoding, then you need to put in that other boot argument that we talked about. So I was able to enable above 4G, so I'm good. So I'll go over here to save changes and exit, and I do have OS on this hard drive because I just booted it with it, and we're going to erase it. So I'm going to press the F11 key, which is on ASRock. Gigabyte is F12 to get to the boot menu on the motherboard. So I'm going to go to the boot menu, and I want to make sure that I am booting from my SanDisk, which is right there. Okay, this is my OS, and this is my USB stick. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to wait for the menu to come up, and I want to go use the arrow keys, up and down arrow keys, and I want to select install macOS Catalina external, which is my USB stick, and hit enter. We're going to go through a lot of text, and it's going to come up to our disk utility format screen when we come right back. And this will get hung up on a couple of lines, but nothing very long. It'll keep going past it. And we're going to come up here to our disk utility. Now this is the screen I said that if you don't put in that boot argument for the 5000 series Radeon graphics cards, this screen will be black. So if you've got a 5000 series card, make sure you put in that other boot argument, or this screen will be black and you won't be able to go any further. Okay, here we are. So we're going to go to disk utility, click continue. And guys, make sure you go right over here to where it says view, and you select the down arrow and show all devices. Now I can see my Sabrent 256 gigabyte drive. Okay, I'm going to erase it. And you name it whatever you like. I'm going to call it Ryzen. And I'm going to make sure that my format is APFS at the top. And the scheme is GUID partition map, and click erase. Okay, done. We'll exit out of here. Install macOS. Continue. Continue. Agree and agree. Select our hard drive and click install. This goes really fast, guys. This is only about 3 minutes right here. It's going to reboot on its own. Just let it do its thing, and we'll show you as soon as it comes back. Okay, it says about 2 minutes remaining, and it should reboot right here. And there it goes. You don't need to touch anything. You don't need to hit the F12 or F11 key for the boot menu. It's going to come right back up, and it's going to choose the next step, and the next step is called macOS Installer. And there it is, and it's going to go on its own. And there it goes. And it's going to come up to the Apple logo in just a second. And again, we got stuck on a couple of lines for maybe 8 or 9 or 10 seconds at the most, and then it keeps going. And we're going to come up here, and we're going to go to the Apple logo. And this is just the continuation of the install. And this needs to go completely across the screen on that taskbar. So when it gets closer to the end, we'll come back and we'll finish this thing up. Okay, guys, just wanted to show you. It says here about 10 minutes remaining, and that's about right. So we'll wait for it to go across here, and we'll come back. Okay, guys, it says less than a minute remaining. It's going to reboot on its own. We're going to leave the USB stick in there still because we need it one more time to boot. All right, here we go. Okay, this time the boot menu is going to choose the name of your hard drive, and I named mine Ryzen. It chose the correct one. We'll just let it go. And again, we get hung up on a couple lines, but it does go forward and continue. And now we can just finish up. I do have my LAN connector, or my LAN cable plugged in, so I'm going to go ahead and choose my country. And it's here somewhere. There it is. Continue, continue, continue. No, I'm not going to transfer or use Time Machine or transfer any information. And I definitely right here do not want to sign into Apple because I have not changed the serial numbers on this computer. So I'm going to set up later and skip. Then agree and agree. And this is just your login. I'm going to call it Mac and put in a password. All right. And continue. customize, I always choose, I enable location services, but I turn off analytics. Continue. And continue. I don't want Siri, so continue. And here you can choose auto, light, or dark mode. We'll just leave it on dark. Continue. And that's it. We've gotten to the magic desktop. So we'll click continue, press the key it wants me to press on both sides, and we are done. Now we have to transfer the EFI folder from the hidden EFI partition on the USB stick and transfer it to the hidden EFI on our hard drive. So let's go ahead and go over to my website. Let's go to TechNolli.com. Hit enter, and we'll go back over to the downloads page. We're going to need a couple of files. So we're going to need property. So we'll download that. And we're going to need mount EFI. And I want to change serial number, so I'm going to choose Gen SM BIOS and download that. Okay, close out of here, go over to downloads. First thing I'm going to do is use the mounter, right click open, and say OK. And I want to choose number 1 to mount the EFI on the USB stick. Hit enter. And then I also want to choose number 3, which is my actual hard drive. Okay. So now we can see right here, this is my hard drive, this is my USB stick EFI. So in here is my EFI folder that we built, and I want to transfer it, or just copy it, into the EFI on the hard drive. Okay, so we're done with that. And I'm going to go ahead and eject the USB stick now, and say eject all. And I can pull that out because we don't need it anymore. Now I'm going to go back to the downloads, and I'm going to double click on Gen SM BIOS, right click on Gen SM BIOS .command, open. And here, guys, it's really simple to change our serial numbers and UUID. We're going to press number 1 and hit enter. And then when it's done, hit enter again. Then press number 2, enter. And what it wants to know is, where is the config.p list? Well, it's right in here. So we'll just go under EFI, OC, and we'll just grab config.p list, drag it over here, and then hit enter. And then number 3. And if you remember, our product serial name was iMac Pro 1,1. Okay, and hit enter. It just injected those serial numbers, board numbers, and UUID into the config.p list. Hit enter again to finish. Go ahead and exit out of terminal. Now I'm going to show you one more thing that you may want to do. You know all that text when you're booting up the computer, how it shows up? Well, we can get rid of that. We just want to use property. Right click on property.command and open. And we're just going to go to File, Open, and we're going to go to our EFI, which is right here, EFI folder, OC, and grab the config.p list and open it up. And then just use our, let me straighten that out a little bit. We'll just minimize these until we get to the NVRAM section right there. And all we have to do is get rid of that -V, okay, which stands for verbose mode, and hit enter, save, close it out, close all this out, and let's reboot and we should be done. Okay, coming back up, and it's going to automatically choose our Ryzen hard drive. But all we have now is the Apple logo, just like all Macs. So that's beautiful. No more text on the screen. And there we are. Put in my password. And there we go. So there it is, guys. All ready, good to go. We can click on our system preferences, and I want to tell you, right now there's no fix for wake up on the Ryzen. So just go ahead and set this computer sleep to never, and then you can set your display sleep to whenever you want, and also put your hard drives to sleep whenever you want, okay? So that way you won't get locked up when it does go to sleep, because it'll go to sleep, but it won't wake up. And then right here, we've got our sound, and there's my monitor, and there's my internal speakers. Everything works fine. Now, the input, the internal microphone will not work typically, and it doesn't on this one, but I do have a little USB dongle from Amazon for $8 if you do need an internal microphone that you can plug in. And that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. Everything's working fine. And we've got internet, blah, blah, blah. So I hope you enjoyed this one. And please like and subscribe. And also, if you're wondering if I do still have tech support, the only thing that I'm offering right now is on my website. And if you go here to paid support, this is the only thing that I'm offering, where you actually ship your motherboard, your hard drive, and your CPU to me. And within 2 days, I ship it back to you with the OS loaded and ready to install to your computer. And this includes shipping back to you, okay? All right, guys, thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next one.